2024 is electrifying. It's the year the world votes. Across the globe, more than 100 countries are heading to the polls, representing half of the planet's population, spread across every continent. This wave of democratic expression began with countries like Algeria in northern Africa and includes the largest democracy on earth, India. While most of these elections have already wrapped up, a few remain, and looming largest among them is one everyone's watching, the U.S. Presidential Election, the heavyweight contest of the year. The United States is about to elect its 47th president, and this decision resonates far beyond American borders. The outcome sets a global tone, influencing economies, alliances, and international relations for the next 4 years. This election, happening just under a week, has former President Donald J. Trump on the Republican side squaring off against current Vice President Kamala Harris for the Democrats. Why does the US election matter so much to the world? Well, the America's influence means its decision ripples outward, affecting markets, trade, policies, and more. In today's episode, we are diving deep into the anticipated impacts. We will look at how each candidate's policy position could influence everything from the economy and capital markets to trade and beyond. So, let's jump right in. Hello everyone, I am Siddhant, your host, and welcome to the Junior Talk, the show where we unpack the latest in finance, business, technology, and everything in between. Let's get started. To begin with, let's take a historical look at the numbers to see how the US economy has performed under Democratic and Republican administrations. A study by economists Lewis Pasteur and Pietro Veronesi from the Chicago University analyzed US GDP growth from 1927 to 2015. They found an average GDP growth rate of 4.8% under Democratic presidents compared to just 1.7% under Republicans. Today, the US economy stands at a critical crossroad. Post pandemic, inflation surged, peaking at over 8% in 2022, before beginning to cool down in later half of 2023. After that, in September 2024, for the first time, the Federal Reserve cut down the interest rate. In September 2024, the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell announced a 50 basis point cut to the interest rate, the first such move in last 4 years. The Fed is expected to cut the rates again by another 25 basis points in November FOMC meeting, with additional cuts anticipated into 2025. This signals a cautious return to stability after years of elevated inflation. Adding to that, the labor market tells a similar story. The US job growth slowed in October with non-farm payrolls increasing by only 12,000 in September, far below economists' forecast of 113,000. The unemployment rate has remained steady at 4.1%. And you may ask why a low job growth is good. Shouldn't we have more jobs? Well, let's look at this from this way. When the financing is cheap and there is easy money for corporations, they tend to hire more people and keep them on payroll, which happened during the COVID due to low interest rate. But when there is an economic strain, corporations tend to avoid unnecessary hiring and focus more on important aspects in the company, thus reducing expenses leading to a low job growth. This unemployment rate is healthy within the 3 to 5% range often considered, suggesting some resilience. Yet, despite these positive signals, the economy remains fragile. Irrespective of whichever party wins this November, they will inherit some daunting financial issues. The national debt for the US is hovering near $36 trillion, with the debt to GDP ratio reaching a staggering 123% as of September 2024. Debt servicing alone consumes 17% of the federal budget, or about 1.1 trillion. Economists predict that a Trump administration would likely see a slower economic growth but higher inflation, while a Harris administration could result in a wider fiscal deficit, according to a report by MND Investment. The report estimates a 2 to 3 trillion increase in deficit over next 10 years under Harris and a 6 to 7 trillion increase under Trump. On trade as well, the US remains a massive consumer, accounting for about 25% of global consumption. In August alone, the country imported goods worth of $272 billion, with China and Mexico as the top suppliers. But as US and China tensions continue to escalate, both candidates are expected to adopt protectionist trade policies. The Harris administration would likely maintain a strong stance on China, while Trump might reinstate tariffs, potentially reaching 60% on Chinese goods and 10 to 20% on other countries, which could drive up cost for the US consumer in a very big way. Then there is foreign policy. While both the candidates share some common ground on issues like Middle East and China, their views diverge significantly on climate change, fossil fuel, the Russia Ukraine war, US alliances, and multilateralism. The stakes are high, as each candidate's approach will shape America's role on the global stage for the next coming 4 years. Lastly, speaking of market performance, remember the Pastor and Vironci study I mentioned? The same research found that the equity risk premium, that is, the additional return investor earn on stocks over risk-free assets like government bond, was roughly 11% higher under Democratic presidents than Republicans. Yet, looking at recent data, neither party holds a clear stock market advantage. The S&P 500 annualized a return under both Obama and Trump was 16.3%, while Biden's administration, if we were to continue his term as Kamala Harris, has so far seen a respectable 12% annualized return through September 2024. Historically, S&P 500 has shown a median return of 3.5% from election day to year end following last 18 election, with gains in two-thirds of the time. So at the end, here we are, just days away from a pivotal decision. With a mountain of challenges facing the next president, spanning fiscal policy, global stability, and AI regulation, the task ahead is formidable. Will the US lean towards continuity with Harris or opt for change with Trump? The next administration, whosoever, will not only save America's path but also send ripples across the world. At this point, it's anyone's game, and they will have their hands full for next 4 years coming. So that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please give me a like, share, and follow on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen. Thanks for tuning in. Take care and see you next time.